Before we get started, I want to let you know that the plans for this bench will be free on the Today's Craftsman website for a limited time. To download the plans, click on the link in the description below. This offer ends on March 26, 2024.
That was a quick look at the bench that we built from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And today we're going to talk about lumber. So we have some examples here. I want to show you, what it looks like when you go to the home store to buy lumber. You have a piece of 1x4, that's a foot long of pine, and a piece of 1x6, that's a foot long of pine as well. Now you might think, if you've never purchased lumber or you're just getting into woodworking, that this would measure 1 inch thick and 4 inches wide, but you could see it's 3/4 by 3.5. So those numbers, the 1x4, are what are called nominal, meaning in name only. So the reason they call it 1x4 is because this board started out in the rough as 1 inch by 4 inches, and it was brought down to this size. Same thing with a 1x6. So 1x4, 3/4 by 3.5. 1x6, 3/4 by 5.5. You have 1x8, which would be 3/4 by 7.25. 1x10, 3/4 by 9.25. 1x12, 3/4 by 11.25. And there is like 1x14. You're going to have a hard time finding it in most lumber. But this stuff is sold by the linear foot. So we just looked up some prices. A 1x4 by 8 feet of poplar is $20.50. A 1x6 by 8 feet of poplar is $30.50. So relatively expensive. That's $256 and $381 a linear foot, respectively. So when you go to the home center, this is going to be sold by the linear foot. And most often, it's going to be sold in 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot, and so on, increments of length. Not a random length. They're going to be pre-cut to a determined size. The way that we typically buy lumber is in the rough. So when you go to the home center and you find a 1x10, it's going to be cupped big time like this. And you can see that this board in the rough is also cupped. This is a piece of 4/4. Same thing as 1x. You can see the difference. So what we're going to do with this board is we're going to use the joiner to flatten one face and the planer to make a parallel face to that original flattened face. And basically we're going to just be taking out a nice flat section out of the center of this board. So what we're able to do is get nice flat material that you wouldn't be able to get at the home center. So John is building a sauna, and we actually just ordered a pack of poplar for him from Lewis Lumber, our lumber supplier, and we were doing a little bit of a cost analysis here, looking at the difference between buying poplar at the home center versus buying it from a lumber supplier. And what we're sort of getting at is we're trying to push folks out of their comfort zone to look for a local lumber supplier because of the quality and the price advantage. So check this out for pricing. We took what was 270 board feet and broke it down into a linear foot. So it would have been 540 linear feet. And John paid, what was it, $495? $495. So a little bit less than $1 a linear foot. That price from the home center, $2,057. So 4 times more than 4 times. And the quality that you're getting from a lumber supplier is much better. We should talk about board footage because I mentioned that term. So rough lumber is sold by the board foot, and board foot is a volumetric calculation. So it's basically just your width multiplied by your thickness multiplied by your length. So a good way to sort of see a direct comparison with linear footage, a 1x6 that's 1 foot long is half of a board foot. So if you had a 2 foot long 1x6, that's 1 board feet. 1 board foot, 1 board feet.
Get into the milling process that I paid a little extra for to make it make sense in that a small shop without all the machinery that you have could also use the same process that I used.
Yeah.
The planing and the straight line rip.
So purchasing rough lumber, if you don't have the machinery, there is no barrier there because most lumber suppliers provide milling services. So as an example here, we broke down the poplar that John bought. The base price was $1.55 a board foot. And then you have 2 options for planing. So you could have it skip planed, which is basically just, they might call it hit or miss also. They run it through a roughing planer and they take it down to a consistent thickness, but it might not go clean on both sides. Or for 20 cents, you could have it planed down to your final thickness, which would be 3/4. So that's 20 cents additional per board foot. And then you can have a straight line put on one edge. They call that a straight line rip. That way you have something to reference against on your table saw. And that's 10 cents per board foot. So a grand total of $1.85 a board foot. You know, you can have beautiful material that's a much higher quality and going to be much more stable and flat for your project because it, you know, usually at the home center, everything that's there has sort of been picked through and it wasn't great quality to begin with. So you're going to get, you know, really good material for a lot cheaper. That was just a quick comparison of home store lumber versus buying from a lumber supplier. We understand that there might be a bit of a fear factor with sort of going to a lumber yard. It's very easy and convenient to go to the home center to buy lumber, but I think the extra effort in, you know, finding and potentially maybe a little bit of a drive to get to a lumber supplier is worth it. And, you know, the folks there are always very helpful and they want to sell you wood. So, you know, they're willing to guide you a little bit. You can get an education while you're there. Yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Hope you enjoyed the bench build and you'll check that out and we'll see you next week.
Back in my shop with a little more information. If you'd like to see the poplar that Jeff was talking about, the poplar for the sauna, be processed into shiplap, I posted a video about that on my channel a few weeks ago. I'll have a link in the description below. It gives you a good idea of how that straight line rip really comes into play. The material comes into the shop here. It all gets stacked up on the right-hand side of the fence. And then I run that straight line rip against the fence, cutting the boards into specific widths. And I do that on the saw stop and then over here on the Powermatic, setting up a dado blade and making all the shiplap. So you can see how that wood gets processed. And it just gives you a good idea of how nice that material looks and how easy it is to mill once you get a little bit of milling done at the lumberyard. Also, if you'd like to build this bench, we're giving away the plans for a few days. And we haven't figured out how to make the plans downloadable. They're very simple. So if you go to the website, you can just take a screenshot, follow along with the project video, and you'll have no problem. This is a very simple project to make, something that you can easily make in 2 days. And I hope it inspires you to get out into the wood shop. We are also selling this bench, so you can go over to the website and learn all about that. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it yet, but if you want to see how I finished this bench, I did that on my channel. And you can, again, click on the link in the description below and see how this bench was finished. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.